Good morning, gentlemen. It has been a few minutes, perhaps a veritable raccoon's age, since we have hung out together. I have no excuse other than farm life and general disgruntlement with everything that lives. Since Septandy is coming up, and I'm actually going to Tandy Assembly this year unless something crazy happens, I figured that it would be very important that I completely ignore doing anything Tandy related, so that I don't have anything ready in time for Tandy Assembly and just have to show up and be that asshole that like goes to the barbecue but doesn't bring any meat or beer. So here we are with the Q-Bus PDP-11 stuff again, and I'm going to recover some shit that we already looked at in a previous video. Since it's been so long, I think it is importante that we get on the same page once again, because I know nothing basically about PDP-11s, and this H11 system is pretty much at the top of my bucket list for computers that I want to have and play with, right? And so I don't want to screw this up, man. I don't want to screw this up, man. So I'm going to go really slow, and I'm going to plan what I'm doing ahead of time and talk to you guys about it, and because I'm sure you all know way more than I do, and perhaps you can keep me from screwing anything up too bad, because then I would cry on camera. And while that might be hilarious for you, it would not be very hilarious for me, and quite frankly, if you want to make me cry on camera, please do it with some other piece of equipment, because let's go back over shit and see what we've got here. So I didn't bring the H11 chassis in here, but in a previous video we fixed the power supply on that chassis. It's an AB. It has an AB backplane in it. It's a Heathkit backplane. It's not a digital backplane. It's a 16-bit backplane, I think. I think the narrowest backplane that DEC made was 18 bits. But don't quote me on that. So that backplane will only work with an LSI 11 2 CPU card, I think, because the LSI 11 3 CPU is a quad height card, and I think it has to go in an ABCD backplane, but that may not be true. Don't quote me on that. But here we have the dual height 11 2 CPU card that came in the H11, and I think it works, but I'm not 100% sure. We definitely want to test this and see if it works. The 11.2, it's a 16-bit CPU card. It can address 32K words, I think, of RAM, which is 64 kilobytes. That gets a little confusing with the PDP-11. That was before everybody started just referring to memory capacities in like quantities of 8 bits. So like 32K for a PDP-11 is usually actually 32K words, 16-bit words, which would be 64 kilobytes. This is a PDP-11 23 CPU card that I am 98% sure is broken. Every other card that this came out of that Tektronix PDP-11. It was a kind of proprietary thing. It took a digital CPU card, but all the rest of the cards are proprietary Tektronix cards, and it ran this proprietary variant of Unix version 6, I think, called Tenix. All of the Tektronix cards are well documented, so it would probably be possible to port something like PDP-11 Physics to it or something like that. Yeah, anyway, everything in that thing except the power supply is broken. I think the bus drivers, it appears that the bus drivers on every card in that system are blown, and I assume that the same is true of this CPU card, although I haven't messed with it much, so maybe it will magically work. That would be cool if it did work. I think that's an 18-bit CPU card. And finally, this is a PDP-11 73 CPU card. and it's a 22-bit card, and this is the one that'll run 211 BSD. The 11.2, I think it'll only run RT11. The Heathkit H11 shipped with a stripped down version of RT11 called HT11. So I guess DEC didn't want them competing with them in the non-hobbyist market or something like that, so they only licensed this stripped down version, but it'll run RT11. The serial and memory cards and stuff are all clones of the DEC cards, I think. The 1123 will run RT11 and RSX11, but the 1173 is what's required to run 211 BSD, and I'm pretty sure this card works. We've gotten some activity on the blinking lights when we were testing this before with just this and a RAM card, but of course we had no console, so we couldn't see anything. So those are the CPU cards I've got. In addition to the H11 chassis with its 16-bit backplane, which I think we can convert to 22-bit with some wire wrap, and run the 1173 in it. But before I acquired that H11, I had picked up this this digital backplane. This probably came out of some piece of CNC equipment or something. It'd be my guess. It's a backplane and card cage. I think it's an 11.3 card cage and backplane. But I was originally going to convert this to 22-bit and try to get it running with the 1173. But since I've already got it, and the power supply appears to work fine, including all the initialization signals in that Tektronix PDP-11, I'm tempted to try to get assuming we can get the 1123 card to work, to try to throw together like a second PDP-11 in this backplane, because I've got a bunch of extra RAM and serial cards, and that SCSI card, if we can get it working with a SCSI to SD correctly, and then throw this into that DEC PDP-11 chassis, because that thing is really cool, and it's kind of a shame that it's going to waste. So anyway, but that's a future project once we get the H11 going, I think. We did a video on this. This is the Ethernet card for the thing. This is basically AUI without fuses on this pin header. It's supposed to have this chassis kit with it that mounts into a BA23 enclosure or something like that, which I don't have, but I think I can just get some ribbon cable and an IDC connector, and I'll solder a DB15 connector onto that ribbon cable, and then plug it into one of these AUI to 10 base T transceivers, and then we can plug it into the LAN. I'll probably ought to put some fuses in there somewhere too, although this thing may have fuses in it already, I'm not sure. Anyway, yeah, so that's the plan for Ethernet. This you haven't seen yet. This was the last thing that I needed to get to make this shit happen. This is an Emulex UC07 bootable SCSI card for the Q-Bus. So that's pretty cool. That'll make us able to use 512-byte block sizes and deal with the SD card image on the SCSI to SD on Linux machines, and fart around with it with SimH without having translation software in between, like we would have had to have done with the old SCSI card that we talked about before in one of those other videos. I bought this off of a nice gentleman on the Vintage Computing Federation forums, but it's been several months and I'm an asshole and I can never remember people's names. But if you're watching this, sir, you are a gentleman and a scholar. Thank you very much for allowing me to buy this from you. It's in great shape and the price was good. I'd been struggling with overpriced trash on eBay that I didn't want to pay all that money for some time, and you really hooked me up, bud. Very cool of you. But there's that old SCSI controller. It'll go into this 11.4 or 11.23 backplane when we try to get it working. Yeah, so this is the DEC serial card. I've got a couple of Heathkit serial cards as well, but this one probably has the best chance of working, assuming Nothing is fucked up on it. I've never tried to test this or anything. Now this is the parallel interface card, that also must have come out of whatever machine this was in. See, the H11 came with a bunch of extra cards, and I ended up buying it from the same guy that I bought this other card cage and backplane from, but it was like, I don't know, 18 months apart or something like that. So I think it's the same guy that I bought this CPU card from. That's what it was. Or maybe I got both of them from the same guy. But it was several months apart, and I think he had all the rest of these cards, but he'd sold the backplane and the CPU card, and he couldn't move them or something, so he threw them in with this H11, maybe, is my guess. I don't know. So this may have been the shit that came out of that other backplane to begin with. I don't know. But I assume this is a resistor pack down here. It's broken in half. It doesn't look like heat damage, so maybe it's just handling damage or something. I don't know how that would have happened, but that would have to be fixed to use this parallel card. But these were used for like controlling equipment and shit like that, so I don't think we'll need it just for playing with operating systems, although it would be cool to like hook some stuff to it sometime, right? Yeah. So I'll set that aside for now. So yeah, we've got our serial card for a console, and then we need some RAM. That's the only thing that remains. Now I've got a bunch of RAM cards. I think this was a 32K word 16-bit RAM card. I looked it up the last time and when we made the video about these cards again, but this isn't a 22-bit card. So I think it'll work with even the 1173, but if we try to put more RAM in alongside this card, I don't think there's any way to get this up into the above 18-bit address space for the 1123. I think it's an 18-bit card, but it's not a 22-bit card. I've got 4 of these 4K word Heathkit cards, so that would be 32 kilobytes of RAM. But we can probably, that may just be a 32K card, I can't remember, but in any case, we can use all of these with the 11.2 or the 1123 CPU card, but if we want to have a whole 4 megs of RAM for 211 BSD with the 1173, we're going to have to produce or acquire some kind of 22-bit memory card, and I've got these beautiful Q-Bus proto boards from Glitchworks, and they are pretty fucking snazzy. They are quad height cards, but apparently it's fine to just cut them in half and use them as dual height cards. So I'll probably cut one in half and try to make a 4 meg memory card out of it using like those 512K through-hole SRAMs, the Alliance SRAMs. The bus timing's a little funny. The designs that I've looked at, one of them uses a really complicated CPLD-based thing to deal with the memory timing, which seems like way more complicated than it needs to be. My thought was, Maxim makes these little, I think they're like 16-pin, maybe 8-pin, I can't remember, dip packages that have several different delay lines in them of different values, and there are a bunch of different ones in their lineup with different values in them and stuff like that. So I think we can use those to generate the timing signals instead of whatever the hell that was with the CPLD that the one guy was doing. So maybe the second order of business will be to see if that 1123 card works. 'Cause I'd rather not blow up the card that came with the H11, because I'd like to keep them together, you know. Even if I'm not using some of the hardware that came out of it, it's nice to keep all that shit together for the next guy after I get mauled by a bear and eaten by my cat or something like that. So I've got all those Heathkit memory cards and the one third-party memory card. Let's put those away. I think they'd work great for like RSX11 or RT11, but I don't think. I think we need at least a meg for 211 BSD, and preferably 4. So anyway, here's the Heathkit version of that blown up parallel I/O card that we were looking at, and here's the Heathkit version of that serial card. And I've got two different versions of that Heathkit serial card that are, I guess maybe they're exactly the same. But I don't understand why they've got different part numbers. Even if that digital serial card doesn't work, I've got two others to try. So I think we ought to at least be able to get some RAM, the existing RAM card, a CPU card, and one of the serial cards working well enough to get into the boot console on one or more of these CPU cards and test them. But I've also got this this beautiful Cubone that needs to be assembled, and along with all of the parts for it, which you plug a BeagleBone Black into this thing, and it emulates as little or as much of the rest of the PDP-11 system as you want. It can emulate floppy drives, which is the main thing I want to use it for. Hard drives, memory. I think it'll even emulate CPUs. So this will be very, very, very valuable for testing these cards, as long as we don't blow it up in the process. So I think the first order of business ought to be to assemble this Cubone. So that'll be the next video. And then I want to double check the power supply voltages, just to be sure that we're not going to smoke something accidentally, and then get this thing installed, and we can start doing stuff. Alright, I guess that's it, gentlemen. It was good to talk to you again. Hopefully I won't be too procrastinatory these days, but I'm sure most of you know way more about PDP-11s than I do, so please, please, please let me know what you think of this plan. If it's a good plan or a bad plan, and how you'd change it if it's a bad plan, and any gotchas that I'm going to run into, that I'm going to miss here, especially like which cards will work together with their different like address bus widths. That I'm a little shaky on some of that. So anyway, cool. See you later.